All right, hey guys. It's Mr. Wilder talking to you a little bit about government today, and the focus of this lesson is going to be on how we limit our government, how do we keep limits on it from becoming too powerful, and maybe taking away our rights that we've grown accustomed to. And one of the main ways, we're going to talk about 5 ways that we limit the government, but one of the main ways we've done that in our country when we started our country was to write the Constitution. We've talked a lot about that in class, the Constitution. And the great thing about the Constitution is it tells us what the law is. All right, there's no doubt it's written down. The difficult thing becomes kind of interpreting what's written down, which we've run into problems with, like the right to bear arms. It would be an example of that, what that really means. But for the most part, the law is written down. Okay. And those laws set limits on the government, what the government can or can't do. And it lists pretty clearly, our Constitution lists very clearly what our rights are. When you think about the Bill of Rights, we talked about that, the freedom of speech and all those things. It makes sure, the Constitution makes sure all those things are clarified so that everybody understands what those rights and responsibilities are as citizens of the United States. So the Constitution is a really important part of checking the government. Another important check on the government would be what we call rule of law. Okay, and rule of law is just, again, the Constitution kind of sets up those laws, but rule of law says that the law applies to everyone, okay? Not just the citizens of the country or kind of the common people of the country, but also the people who are elected to run the country. Even the president falls under rule of law. So no one is above the law, and everyone has to follow the law, and it's treated equally among everybody. So that's important. So even the government has to follow the law. So that keeps a check on the government, obviously. Another important part of limiting our government is minority rights. Okay. And this is the idea that everybody's rights are protected, okay? Not just whoever the majority is in a country, whether in our case, whether it's Caucasians or whether it's African Americans or Hispanics or whoever, it doesn't matter, but everybody has the same rights that are guaranteed under law and are treated equally under law. So it's not just the ruling party or the ruling group of people that have the majority in the country that have the power. Everybody has equal rights, okay? And those are all protected. The next one is consent of the governed. So let me write that up here. Consent of the governed. Okay. Consent of the government, basically another word for that is voting. Okay. We give consent to the government by voting, and if we don't like what they're doing, we can vote against that. Okay. So if there's a law that's passed that we don't like, we can certainly vote against that law or against that candidate or whoever that congressman or representative was that voted for that law. We can vote against them next time they run for election. So that's important to understand. We have the consent to be governed because we can vote. Okay, citizens can vote and decide how the government is being run. And anytime you complain about how the government's being run, the way you can deal with that is by voting. Okay, by voting, citizens can even change the Constitution if you want to by adding amendments to it, and we've done that here in our country. So voting is very important. That equates to consent of the governed. We vote. We can give consent by voting. Okay. Next one is separation of powers. Okay. And it was pretty cool how they set up our government in our country. They really made sure that each branch of the government had a separation of powers, and each branch could check the other branch based on its powers. So the Supreme Court can check the Congress or the legislative branch and the President. The President can check the legislative branch. The Congress can check the Supreme Court. So there's all kinds of checks and balances that are put in place in our Constitution that we're going to learn more about in this class, but we're not going to go into a lot of detail on that now. But just keep in mind that each branch has a check or a power over the other group, And all the responsibilities of our government are split up among different branches of our government. So it's not just the president who gets to do everything. It's not just Congress that has all the power. It's not just the Supreme Court. It's a variety, all three of those branches that kind of split those powers up. So one branch really isn't stronger than the other branch. Okay? So those are the 5 limits that we put on our government: the Constitution, rule of law, separation of powers, consent of the governed, and minority rights. That's how we limit our government, with these checks, these 5 things here. Hopefully those make good sense to you. There's some reading in the textbook that you can do to get some more information, and we'll be doing an activity in class too that might help you understand these a little bit better. Thanks for listening. Thanks for doing your homework, and I'll see you tomorrow in class.